Welcome to Accelerated Velocity, the podcast that helps you move faster, smarter, and more strategically in the rapidly evolving world of AI. We'll break down the latest AI news and innovations and explore how they impact your marketing, sales, and business growth. We'll dive into practical use cases, unpack new tools, and cut through the noise so you and your team can adapt with confidence. I'm Grace Matthews, Director of Content at Inbound AV, a business development agency and HubSpot solutions partner dedicated to driving sustainable business growth. Each week, I'll be here with Peter Malik, our CEO and founder. Join us as we make sense of what's changing and what to do about it. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Accelerated Velocity. This episode is going to be a little different, and I'll just jump right into it. We're going to cover some major updates in the business development world centering around Inbound 2025, which, Peter, you are currently physically in attendance. I know I've been monitoring remotely.
Yes, I'm physically in a hotel room in San Francisco, so I'm not technically in attendance right now, but yeah, you could say that.
Awesome. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Inbound is the biggest inbound marketing events of the year. It's put on by HubSpot. In previous years, it's been in Boston near HubSpot headquarters, and this is the first year that it's relocated to San Francisco. So I would imagine new vibe, a little bit of a change, but also some major updates on the technical side.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. I think that there's probably more exhibitors here simply because a lot of them are based in Silicon Valley, and so it becomes a very easy lift for them to attend. HubSpot claims that this is like a one-off thing, that they'll be back in Boston next year. Who knows? But being from Boston, I look forward to Inbound so I can go back and see my home and see friends. But San Francisco is great too.
Yeah, and I know, like I said, I've been kind of following along with what's going on at Inbound remotely. I know that there are some major new updates that HubSpot released during the event. So for those of you who aren't HubSpot users, I think there's still going to be some really valuable information here, especially in relation to AI and where things are moving with business development. But Peter, I was curious to hear what your major takeaways are from the past couple of days.
Well, last year was the first time that it really started to have an AI focus. They recognized that they needed to do that. They released Breeze Intelligence at Inbound last year, and Breeze Intelligence, in my opinion, is just coming into its own. It's becoming a very important and powerful part of HubSpot. I will say that this year's Inbound was about AI and some more AI. And a little bit even more AI. So it was just so focused on all of these really cool releases in the product. And so it had my attention. I mean, I typically will go to a mix of a few sessions and meet people and just talk to people out in the show. But I attended more sessions this year than I ever have. And I'm glad I did, because a lot of really valuable information, a lot of interesting takeaways. And also, really, there's so many releases within the HubSpot platform that it's really hard to get your head around all of it. It's just you can take in the features one by one, but how they impact the platform as a whole, I don't even have a clue yet, honestly, but it is all good.
I know HubSpot users, most of you are probably familiar with the products updates page on HubSpot, where you can see all of those updates rolling in. There's also, a series of pages where HubSpot publishes all of their updates. I thought it would be great to pinpoint just a few major, what we would consider to be game changers that just rolled out that you might want to dive into.
Well, one thing that we couldn't talk about until now is that we were invited to a beta launch of the new HubSpot app marketplace. And we've been really excited about it. Very few HubSpot agencies were invited. And so we really engaged in it a lot. They really were. Their beta team was a great team to work with, because we make a suggestion and most of them are pretty good. Some of them, didn't fly, but we make a suggestion and they have incorporated the feature by the end of the day. I mean, it was crazy. So we're really excited about that, and also be able to talk about it a little bit. The new app marketplace, it just has so many upgrades. And one of the most interesting ones is that there is an AI driving recommendations for the app marketplace. So in other words, a HubSpot user logs in, they enter a particular type of app they're looking for. And based on how you use your account or what other apps you have in your account, it'll make a recommendation based on that. Now, you don't have to share that data if you don't want to, but it's really a way to cut through the thousands of apps that are out there, and there's so many more to come because the new platform is enabling developers to pretty quickly develop some really, really cool stuff. There's also been over 200 product releases at the show, so that's a bit to keep up with too.
Hard to keep track with everything. Absolutely. Yeah, I would tell everybody listening to stay tuned for our newsletter that comes out weekly with a little bit of a deeper dive into the specifics of some core updates for anybody interested in. One other thing I'll pinpoint is the Marketing Studio. So Content and Marketing Hub, which are very important HubSpot tools for anybody on the platform, have now been rolled into the Marketing Studio with tons of new AI features. That's something to dive into as well, along with what I would describe as just a more interconnected and kind of global view of how some of the earlier AI features on HubSpot and with Breeze Intelligence are getting rolled into Sales Hub, into Service Hub, all of that.
Yeah. And also, there was a shift. We no longer have Operations Hub. It's been renamed Data Hub, and it's gained some really kind of mad skills as far as enhancing data and using the HubSpot tools and also other outside AIs to deliver information that can be really impactful for you. And on the side, I want to give a shout out to Happily. So Happily has been developing HubSpot apps for a couple of years now, I think. And one of the ones that we were really interested in when it came out was Event Happily. And it's a way to run an event from within HubSpot. And when we talked to them, I mean, it was like the version 0.9. I mean, it was just as version 1 was being released. And it didn't really have features that would be valuable to our clients at the time. But I saw a presentation by Connor, who's the CEO of Happily, but also of Aptitude 8, one of the larger HubSpot partners. And Event Happily has grown up, and it's something that if you run events, you're interested in running events, you really should take a look at it. I think that there's been a shift in a number of ways over the last few months, and a lot of in-person stuff is really gaining traction because there's so much noise out there in the digital world. There's so many, I'll give you an example. I get these rashes of podcast invites, and they're all, I don't know if they're real, but they're not real podcasts. But literally, you get like 3 or 4 a day, and then you just delete them once you figure out, this is just bogus. And so that went away, and like 2 weeks later, actually this week, a whole new take on asking you to their podcast came up, and now I'm getting 3 or 4 a day of that. So this, just another example of how much noise there is in the marketplace. And I think in-person events is something that we're going to be relying on more and more, at least for the near future.
I think that's a really great point that you make, Peter. Just talking about what's going on with HubSpot, it has me thinking about the way that AI is integrated into every platform that we're using, right? Which can be very useful. It's great to have that interconnectedness on certain campaigns that you're running and to have these tools that make things more efficient. But also it adds to that noise, and it can also cut down on the personal connection if it's not necessarily integrated into our workflows properly. So I think that keeping your eye on, if you're not an event person and you're not heading out to business development events or events for your industry as is, I would keep your eye on what's coming up, especially in 2026, as a lot of events are kind of coming up in the new year.
The other takeaway I have is that, we've talked a lot about different AIs and what you can rely on right now and what you can't rely on, and the stuff that might be in the middle where you don't want to just blindly have it go out writing emails, for instance, but at the same time, there's some value to it. A lot of the stuff that was discussed at Inbound are new features that do very specific things, which is also something we've discussed a lot, and they do really valuable things. So I think we've turned a corner in a lot of ways, which is really exciting. So, I will say that I hope that we can focus on some of the stuff that happened at Inbound, because a lot of it goes beyond whether you're a HubSpot user or not, but it's just general trend and things that you need to be paying attention to. I hope we can go over that in the coming weeks, because there's so much to unpack. And as we get a better handle on piecing all of these 200 features together and how it will impact real people, like companies like ours, like yours, that's going to be something that I think will unfold more and more. We don't have the full picture yet because it's just too much to take in. But I look forward to talking about that, because I think it's a really interesting conversation we had, an impactful conversation.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, I would just mention that as we're approaching Q4, whatever CRM or marketing automation platform you're using right now, it's a great time to dive in the dozens of product updates that are coming out available to you, because there's a lot of that happening, and it's a good time to see how that fits in to lining up your goals. And then
one interesting session I attended this morning, by the way, was the CEO of Anthropic. And so he talked a lot about Claude, obviously, and very, very interesting guy. Basically, he's making the case that his company is the conscience of AI. And he mentioned an example that, that when, like, for instance, bad actors in, for instance, North Korea have scammed people, that as soon as they can isolate that, they shut it right down. But that he doesn't really hear about any other platforms shutting that stuff down, which leads you to wonder, are they shutting it down? So, really interesting. There was an interesting guy who is an advocate for AI, and he has a book coming out. But I kind of felt that was kind of a mixed bag for me, because there are a lot of books that come in with an agenda preset going in. In other words, they have what they want to prove is true, rather than doing the research of what really is the trend or what are the dangers and so forth. And consequently, in some of those books, and there's kind of a trend around that, in some of those books, they'll sort of bake the data in a way to not tell the whole picture, to just prove their point. And so anyway, not to talk ill of anybody, but he shall remain anonymous. But I think that there is a bit of that, this, as we've talked before, there's a lot of cheerleading about all the wonderful things in AI. And there's a lot to cheerlead about, but there's also a lot to be cautious about.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's also a lot of hype around just things that are new versus things that are actually useful and applicable. And I think that's actually for me, a thematic takeaway from this year's Inbound that I think applies to the entire industry is there was a clear effort to center a lot of the talks and a lot of the product information around tools that are kind of a refinement of this groundbreaking technology that's become accessible to so many of us within the past few years, versus throwing out new tools that are disjointed and don't necessarily look like and the test of time in the long run.
Yeah. Great. So, this is it for me. This is another day of Inbound. I'm headed back to work from my working vacation. I'm going to go work somewhere else. And, but, again, really looking forward to unpack a bunch of those 200 product updates that I probably don't even know about yet. I've definitely focused on the ones that caught my eye. Look forward to talking about it again soon.
Yeah, stay tuned for more on HubSpot, and stay tuned for more on AI in the business world in general. Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Accelerated Velocity. A link to our website, newsletter, and all that other good stuff can be found down in the show notes. If you like what you heard, we'd appreciate a 5-star review, and make sure to subscribe for weekly episodes on the latest in AI for business.